So in example 1, what we want to do here is to calculate the 3 years moving average, the 5 years moving average, and then also the exponential smooth value. So for 3 years moving average, what we're going to use is we're going to use 3 years of average. And the 3 years that we're going to use is the current year, the year before, and the year after. Okay, so for year 2, we're going to use 23, 40, and 25 because we're using the current year 40, we're using the 23 from year before, and then we're using the 25 from the year after. And then we take the average of these three numbers, we get 29.3. The same goes for year 3 moving average, right? So for year 3, we take the average of the current year, 25. We take the number from before, so 40, and then we take the number from after, so 27. So we take the average of these three numbers, and then we get the 30.7, and so on. So for the 5 years moving average, it's the same. We're taking 5 years average. That's the only difference. And which 5 year we're going to choose is we're going to choose the current year. The current year, for example, for year 3, we're going to choose the current year, which is 25, and then we're going to choose 2 years from before. So we're going to choose year 1 and year 2, and then we're going to choose 2 years after, so year 4 and year 5. So we're going to take the average of these 5 numbers, and that will be your answer for the moving average for 5 years. And we're going to get 29.4 for year 3. So now that we understand the moving average equation algebraically, I'll show you how to do that in Excel really quickly. Okay, so we're going to start from year 2, and we're going to use the formula equal average that we learned from chapter 3. So equal average, and we're going to highlight the data from year 1 to year 3, and then press enter, and that will give you the 29.3. So for year 2, our moving average goes from year 1 to year 3, and then once we have set up this formula, we can replicate it by dragging it down. And then we can do the same for 5-year moving average. For 5-year moving average, we use the formula equal average. We take the average of 5 numbers. So for year 3, we take the average from year 1 all the way to year 5. So equal average B6 to B10, and then we get a 29.4. So once that is done, we can replicate the formula. And what you need to know is that for 3 years moving average, we don't have the moving average for year 1, the first period, and we also don't have the moving average for the last period. The reason is because to calculate the moving average, we need the year from before, so we don't have the sales from year 0, so therefore we can't do the moving average for year 1. And then same idea for moving average for the last period. In order for us to calculate the last period, we need the sales from period 12, which we don't have, so therefore we cannot do the moving average for the last period. This idea is the same for 5 years moving average. 5 years moving average, we don't have sales from before, from 0 times 0 and then times -1, so we don't have those 2 years of sales, so therefore we cannot calculate the moving average for year 1 and 2. And then same for year 10 and year 11. We cannot calculate the 5 years moving average for year 10 and year 11 because we don't have the sales for year 12 and year 13. So in the first equation, we have E1 equals to Y1. So this is for the first year only. So this is for E1. So E1 is the exponential smooth value for year 1. And then we have Y1. Y1 is your sales. Okay, so our Y1 is 23. So for E1, we're going to equate that to 23. So what we're going to do is we're going to put equal B6 because our E1 equals to the Y1, the sales of year 1. And from year 2 and onward, what we're going to use is the second equation. And then in the equation, we have the weight. The weight is 0.2. Those we're going to substitute into the equation, W1 minus W. So that's the weight, 0.2. So we're going to type the formula in for year 2. So what we have is the 0.2. The 0.2 is the weight, so that's your W. So we're going to have W times Y. So W times Y of the same period. So W is 0.2 times Y. So Y for year 2 is 40. And then we're going to plus 1 minus W. So 1 minus W, we have that set up, 1 minus W. And then we times it by the E from the previous period. So I minus 1 just means the previous period. Okay, so we take 1 minus W, and then we times it by the E from the previous period. So that's why we take the 1 minus 0.2, we times it by the cell E6, so the 23 from the previous period. So what you need to know is that these are two different columns. So one is column B. Column B is your Y, is your sales, and then column E is your exponential smooth value. So these are two different columns. One is B7, the other is E6. Okay, so we're taking the B7 from the current period, we're taking the E6 from the previous period. And then once you do that, you're going to get to 26.4. Then we can replicate the formula. We can just replicate the formula for the whole thing. And then we can just format it to 2 decimal place. And that's your example 1.